Hello, dear friends. I'd like to say something which I said on this past Shabbat, Parashat Vayera, a very surprising commentary by the Rashbam, that is Rashi's grandson, one of the well-known grandsons. There were other grandsons of Rashi well-known, like Rabbeinu Tam, from the Baalei Tosfot, from the Tosfot. So the Rashbam is Rabbeinu Shmuel ben Meir. And as I said, known as the Rashbam. He is looks 12th century, and right before the Akeda, there's a story of the covenant, or the alliance, or the treaty, which is made between Avraham and Avimelekh, the king of Gerar, the king of the Plishtim, and seven sheep are given. And that's why the city was called Beersheba, the well of the seven. This happens right before, and Abraham puts the seven sheep by themselves. And Avimelekh says to Abraham, "What are the seven sheep?" He says, "These seven sheep you're going to take from me in order to bear testimony that I made this well." And therefore it was called the well of the seven. And they made a covenant, and the covenant was that to swear to God that you will not lie to me or to my children or to my grandchildren. Meaning that basically Avimelekh asked Abraham to take this vow. And Abraham says, okay. And the vow really is a vow of peace that will be between them, between Avimelekh and Abraham. So this sort of peace treaty with Avimelekh and Abraham, that Avimelekh would be able to live on his land and Abraham would be on his land. And then after that, you have the story of the Akeda. Now the Rashbam, normally we say the Akeda is the 10th Nisayon, the 10th test that Abraham was put through by God, because the Mishnah and Pirkei Avot say there are 10 trials that Abraham had to go through as a father of the people of Israel. And the last one is the Akeda. But Rashbam seems to see it slightly differently. I want to read what he has to say. After these things, the Akeda starts, it says, after these things, God tried Abraham or tested Abraham, or according to some, raised Abraham up. Every place that Rashbam says that it says after these things, it means it's connected to what previously happened. Because Abraham had killed the four kings who killed the four kings who had fought against the five. And it also says after these things there, and then after Isaac was born. So every time it says after, it's connected directly to what happened before. And what happened before was the story of Abraham and Avimelekh. And with Abraham and Avimelekh, they made this covenant between Avimelekh and Abraham and his sons and his grandsons. And he gave him the 7 sheep as a testimony. And God was angry, says Rashbam, because after all, the land of the Plishtim, the Philistines, is part of Israel. And God commanded the children of Israel in the book of Deuteronomy, Lo techayeh kol neshama, you shall not leave any of the Canaanites there. And Joshua too, he also fought against the 5 Philistine cities. Therefore, God was testing Abraham, which means he was kintaro. This was a form of punishment. Because why are you testing God? Because Abraham obviously became arrogant, because now he had a child, something he wanted all the time. So now you think that you have a child, you can make a covenant between you and somebody else? In other words, you think because you have a child, you can now make a covenant with Avimelekh? You can't make a covenant with him because you're going to have to rid Canaan of the Philistines. So why are you making a covenant which is not allowed? Therefore, I will tell you that one child that made you arrogant, bring him up as an offering. Let's see if you'll do it. And let's see if this covenant is going to help for something like that. So basically, Rashbam is saying that the whole binding of Isaac's story is a punishment for making an agreement, a peace agreement with Avimelekh, the king of the Philistines, because they're going to, just like the Canaanites, he's going to have to be banished from the land. Now, the Rashbam, which normally doesn't actually like quoting Midrashim, because he sees himself as always the simple meaning of the text. In this case, he does. He quotes a Midrash Shmuel, and I will read to you a similar Midrash, which is found in Midrash Rabbah, which might be on which he bases this idea. Now, the Midrash says, and Abraham took the sheep and the cattle, and he gave it to Avimelekh, and Avimelekh said to Abraham, what are these 7 sheep, like we said before? The Holy One, blessed be he said to the Holy One, Amar lo LaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be he, said to Abraham, you gave 7 sheep without my permission. You should know that I am going to force your children to wait 7 generations. You gave 7 sheep without my permission. I'm going to kill 7 righteous people from your offspring, Chofni, Pinchas, Shimshon, Shaul, and his 3 sons. You gave 7 sheep without my permission. Therefore, there will be 7 tabernacles which will be destroyed. Oel Moed, Gilgal, Nov, Givon, Shiloh, and of course the 2 temples. And it goes on. You gave 7 sheep without my permission. Therefore, the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, will be 7 months among the Philistines, like it says in Psalms 78, etc. So in other words, this Midrash is basically saying that Abraham was not allowed to make a covenant with Avimelekh, and he was punished for it. However, the difference between this and the Rashbam, as the Rashbam says, the punishment was not what necessarily specified in the Midrash. He just agrees with the Midrash that Abraham did something which was wrong. But the punishment was the Akeda itself, the binding of Isaac. Not that the binding of Isaac was a test that worked out, but the binding of Isaac itself as a punishment. Very, very difficult thing to say. And it is mentioned, I think, by the Chizkuni, at least the Midrash, but the way the Rashbam understands it is quite a very strong point of view. So I want to say 2 things in regards to this. Number one, I think the point of the Midrash and the point of the Rashbam is to realize that you can't, when God says that you have to take over the land and move the people out of the land, you just do it. According to our tradition, it didn't have to only be in battle. The Talmud says Joshua sent 3 letters to the Canaanites. Number one was, if you want to have peace, you can live among us in peace as long as you know that we're the sovereign. Then letter number 2 was, if you want to run away, we'll let you run away. And number 3 was, if you want to fight, we're prepared to fight too. But he gave them the options. It didn't have to be specifically one way, according to the Talmud. But there's also the importance of the land. To understand that the land of Israel is not real estate. It's God's gift to the Jewish people. That's where we thrive. That's where we become a people as Rabbi Cook would say, there's almost an organic relationship between the people and the land. Like it says in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, Vashimoti ani et haaretz v'shamamu aleh oivechem hayoshvim ba. It says in Leviticus, chapter, I think it's 27, B'chukotai, when it talks about the curses, I shall make the land desolate, and your enemies will be astonished. It's the same word for astonished and desolate, how desolate the land is. And Rashi there says, this is actually a good message to the people of Israel, which means for as long as the people of Israel are not in the land of Israel, it will lay waste. No nation will be able to build it up. But when the Jews come back, then again it'll bring its blessing. That's why the Talmud says in Sanhedrin, it's a 97 or 98, Rabbi Abba says, you have no better sign than this. Like it says in the prophet, Vatem Harei Israel, and you, the mountains of Israel, Anfechem Tetenu, give your branches, Upirichem Tisulam Israel, and bear your fruits for my people Israel, because they are coming soon. So when you see the blessing coming back to the land, and the land bearing its fruit, that means the Jewish people are on their way back. And that's the way it was. The land of Israel was barren as long as the people of Israel were not here. In the Peel Commission of the 1930s, they reported to the British authorities that if 1 million people were in Palestine at that time under the British meant was called Israel and Jordan together, 1 million people, the economy would collapse. Well, now just on our side, in the land of Israel, there are already 10 million people and the economy is doing quite well. Because when the people come back, the land bears its fruit like a mother waiting for her children. And in the 13th century, Nachmanides writes on this verse, he says, and we see that they're all trying to build it up and nobody is successful because the children have to come back. And a generation later, Rabbeinu Bechaye, on that same verse in Leviticus, says, and not only are the nations not able to build it up, they will not succeed until the chicks come back to the nest, meaning the people of Israel. That's what happened. People of Israel came to Israel, and the desert started to bloom, and the swamps with malaria disappeared, and the land gave its fruit and its blessing, because this is God's promise. So Abraham had to be more careful. You don't just make an alliance. Maybe Avimelekh was not supposed to be there. By the way, Plishtim in Hebrew, from the word Plisha, means invaders. They came from Crete or from somewhere outside the area and tried to take over. However, before I end, I'd like to mention something in defense of Abraham, which I think is important. We have to defend our forefathers, why I think he did it. When he makes this covenant or this alliance or this treaty with Avimelekh, whom he had some difficulties with, he says, I want you to swear to God that you will not bring evil, or he calls it lie, to me or to my children or to my grandchildren. Meaning we're making a covenant now for 3 generations. And like the good things I'm showing you and being nice to you with the land, you'll do the same. So actually, Avimelekh, right? Avimelekh says, I want you to take an oath. And this oath will be, to Abraham, he says, do not lie to me or to my children or to my grandchildren. And Abraham says, okay. Why do I think Abraham might have said okay? Because earlier in Vayera, earlier in Lech Lecha actually, God tells Abraham, you should know, your your children will be foreigners in a land which is not theirs, which eventually becomes Egypt. And they will be there 400 years. And then the fourth generation will come back. Rashi tries to calculate how it works out. He says it's actually 400 years from the birth of Isaac. But because it says the fourth generation comes back, Abram probably figures he wants me to swear for me, my sons, and my grandchildren. Well, since I was promised that the fourth generation will come back, I don't need more than that anyhow. So that's what I'll swear. I'll swear for 3 generations because God says after that, we're coming back. So what do I need him for? So if anything, I will say the defense of Abraham, that maybe in his mind, he was only swearing for 3 generations based on the proposal that was at hand. And after that, everything is open again. But in both cases, it's to teach us that the land of Israel is not real estate. It's not negotiable. It's God's promise and present to the people of Israel, where he says to Abraham, I will show you a land, and that is the land of your fate. And that's where I'll make you into great people. And only there will it happen. Only there does the connection work. And that's where the blessing comes, not just the people of Israel, but to the whole world. Shalom, shalom.